Holy crap. Dave Smith just compared Gaza to a concentration camp, and Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza, and gets absolutely taken to school by Douglas Murray. Now, Murray might have lost the entire debate, but this specific part about Israel is just 100% Douglas Murray all the way. Check it out.
But that's what it is. I imagine you've read all the people who say that Gaza was a concentration camp, and you probably think that too. Am I right?
I mean, again, literally a concentration camp. It shares a lot of similarities, I would think.
First of all, let's just get one term correct, because you said you do think it's a concentration camp.
I said it shares many,
Right. And you also say that there's a disproportionately heavy youth population in Gaza.
Yes.
Right.
Do you think that's not accurate?
I think the second one is accurate.
Right.
But it's a very strange thing to say that there's a population boom in a concentration camp. In Auschwitz in the 1940s, there was not a doubling of the population.
No, I didn't say it was.
He didn't say it was a
death
concentration camp. He said it shares many of the characteristics.
Auschwitz was a concentration camp.
It was ultimately a death camp, no?
Yes, it started as a concentration camp.
Yes, correct.
You'll notice that people were not doubling in size their number because of the children they could have in Auschwitz.
Yeah, but nobody's calling it a
can't-
concentration camp because it's the same
saying,
as Auschwitz.
Okay,
I don't
but
know.
let's just at least tidy up the language a bit. Either you think the place is a concentration camp, or you think it's not a concentration camp, and I don't think it can be a concentration camp, or any such term is suitable when you're talking about a place which you yourself have admitted has a disproportionately young population. So that's the first thing.
I don't think breeding in any way argues against, but okay. I didn't call it a concentration camp either.
You said it has many of the same.
But you asked him if it did.
Yes.
You asked him if it had any of the characteristics of a concentration camp.
Yes, because he said earlier that it did.
Okay, well, so let me be much more precise. Let me be much more precise, okay? So I'm not claiming that it is a concentration camp or that it is akin to Auschwitz. I'm saying that it's been under full blockade since 2007. Israel rules the seas, the airs, they control electricity that goes in. They're not allowed to have an airport. They're not allowed to have a seaport. They don't have the freedom to leave without permission from the Israeli government. They don't have the freedom to trade with the world. They don't have a freedom to vote over the government that rules them. I don't know. Call it whatever you want to. That's the situation.
All of which is a result of the election of Hamas.
None of it's Israel's fault. Israel's not responsible for one of the babies that have died of the bombs that they are dropping.
Let's get onto that then, because you say it's one of the most brutal wars. It's a very brutal war.
So hold on. So in the span of a minute and a half, he jumped from, Israel's a concentration camp. Gaza's a concentration camp probably, to, well, I never said that. Well, you didn't come from me. You asked me the question. How unbelievably intellectually dishonest you have to be to change your position and then blame him for misrepresenting your position when literally 60 seconds before you were like, yeah, probably a concentration camp.
So if you want to get the hostages back, and if you want to destroy Hamas, when you're fighting against a force which does not only not follow the rules of war, but uses your following of the rules of the laws of war against you, at least concede this is a highly specific and complex military operation. And if you have, or anyone else has, and I say this genuinely, a better way to get back the hostages and to destroy Hamas, I at any rate am all ears.
There's two very different goals that are being stated here, right? Like there's the retrieving the hostages, and then there's taking out Hamas. Now, the retrieving the hostages, and actually many of the families of hostages who are taken have been some of the only people really protesting this war in Israel, because of course, if you imagine, if you have your family over there and your government is leveling this place, that is not the best path to pursue to make sure you get all the hostages out alive. I would say that it fell apart, but Donald Trump having his envoy Witkoff go over there and work out this ceasefire deal that they had for a few weeks. They did get, I believe, 30 hostages back during the phase 1 of this ceasefire. Seems to me like that would be the method to pursue to try to get the hostages back.
The reason why the hostages have been released, the numbers they have, is because of constant kinetic force by the IDF. Hamas does not come to the table and ever hand over hostages out of goodwill. It doesn't do it out of the goodness of their own heart.
Hold on. Tell me you caught that. He said, well, maybe we should just do ceasefires and then they'll give back the hostages. Worked originally, worked with Steve Witkoff, worked before then. And then Douglas Murray says, why do you think they're giving them back? Because of military pressure. Because Israel is bombing the shit out of them. He's like, no argument there. I'm sorry. A second before you argued the exact opposite point. That's 2 times in a span of 10 minutes where he goes completely in opposite argument that this is happening. And then the second Douglas corrects him, he's like, well, no argument there. Totally agree. That's not debating. That's caving over and over again in order to stop and avoid confrontation, in order to avoid actually going back and forth. And this is what he did throughout the debate. Let's watch. Let's continue.
There is no intention on the Israeli side to cause the death of non-combatants.
Oh, come on. I mean,
Hang on.
listen.
What you
okay.
think? Why do you think the Israelis would want to go and kill children in Gaza?
Listen, let me just, how about I say it like this, okay? And by the way, when I say it like this, I'm not claiming that disputes between nations are the same as handling dispute domestically. I'm just saying on the idea of intentionality or who wants to do this or whatever. Look, even if you had the right, let's say somebody broke onto your property and killed some of your family members and you want to go kill this guy, if he goes back to his apartment building and you know that there's women and children in that apartment building, and so your move is to blow up the building, what you would be charged with is murder in the first degree. Cold-blooded, premeditated, intentional murder. And you could sit there and tell the judge, I didn't want to kill all those people. Why would I want to kill all of those people? I just had to kill that one guy. But that's bullshit. That's not what counts. You did it intentionally. You dropped a bomb knowing that there were women and children in that building. You're taking an action knowing that these innocent people are going to die. Then that is by definition intentional. And you could sit here and talk about, and it is true, there have been documented cases of Hamas placing missiles in mosques and in schools and things like that. But when you look at the aerial footage of Gaza, that does not describe every single strike that Israel has launched. There have been tons of bombs dropped where it's simply, and we have very good reporting on this, where they've literally just have information that they believe with some degree of certainty that a couple of Hamas militants are in this building, and so they blow up the building. That is intentionally murdering innocent people.
It's just laughable. Well, there's information that Hamas might launch rockets from a specific institution or building. Yeah. You bomb that building. It's not like a crazy thing. That's what they do in warfare.
And if you're going to advocate for this war, I don't see how you can do it without saying that, like, at least bite the bullet that Madeleine Albright did when she was asked, we've played this clip on the show before, when she's point blank asked about the sanctions on Iraq and our 500,000 children, is that price acceptable? And she said, yes, we believe that price is acceptable. You're saying if you're going to support this war, you know this is the price of it. So why can't you just say, yes, that price is acceptable? Because then we could have a real conversation about why the other side is going to look at you like a monster.
Because, first of all, I don't agree with any of the characterization you make. Any of it.
Okay.
You say that the Israelis get some information, as if this is like what? They're making it up? Or you think the Israelis want to drop a bomb? Or no, they act on information about where the terrorists are, just like they act on information of where the hostages are. Secondly, when you talk about the destruction in the Gaza, something you probably haven't realized, but is one of the reasons why the destruction looks so bad and is so bad, is because when the IDF were clearing the areas that they'd asked the civilian population to leave and were going house to house, and it isn't just stories here or stories there, it's every second or third house in Gaza that has either munitions or tunnel entrances. Every second or third house. This is not the odd case. One of the things that everybody who has been there knows is that you go into a mosque and you know there will be either rockets and or tunnel entrances. You go into a hospital and you know that there will be grenades or tunnel entrances or dungeons or whatever. Just on a lighter note, early in the conflict when the Shifa complex, which is used as a Hamas headquarters and has also been used as a hospital, but even in 2014 the BBC said this is where Hamas are operating from. When that was shown by the Israelis to have massive weapons stores in the tunnels and cellars underneath it, they had grenades, RPGs, Kalashnikovs, and the BBC's chief Middle East correspondent was asked live on air, why would these things be in a hospital? And Jeremy Bowen said, well, it's perfectly possible because there's a lot of, guns in the Middle East. It's perfectly possible the security department of the hospital had the Kalashnikovs. I said, yeah, and did the grenades belong to the cardiologists? I mean, why? Why is this so normal that every civilian building like this and every second or third house in Gaza is a weapons dump or a place that you enter the tunnels from? But the reason why the devastation, which it is, in the north in particular, but also in Rafah and elsewhere, is what it is because every time the IDF went into an area where they had told the civilians to leave, the Hamas terrorists that remained were in civilian buildings and booby-trapped a very large number of the buildings. So what they did as they proceeded through those areas of the Gaza to clear them was to set off munitions, which the American military and others use, which sets off secondary explosions in places that are booby-trapped. And much of what you see in the photographs that you see, and many other people have seen from Gaza, is the result of that. It is the result of the IDF trying to clear an area which has been very carefully and well booby-trapped for years.
All right, so that was a debate, and a lot of people in the comments are like, Douglas Murray got destroyed. He got humiliated. He made an appeal to authority, and he looked really bad. Listen, I think that a lot of the debate where he wasn't talking about Israel, he got a little bit off on a tangent about, how people are saying, I'm just asking questions, but this is what I'm going to say. And it is maddening what I've seen over the last couple of months from the woke right and people like Candace Owens, people like Daryl Cooper, people like Ian Carroll. He didn't look that great. He didn't look that great during most of the debate, but hands down, anytime it was about Israel, Douglas Murray just wiped the floor with Dave Smith. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. For more, subscribe to the channel. If you want to help us make more of these videos, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.